I've got the looks and the charm of an old movie star. Cary Grant, if you will, so I find it bizarre that this girl should refuse to step into my car. She must be shy, she'll come around, it's just a matter of time. Aurora, Aurora, Aurora.
Hey there, Screen Beans, and welcome to Screen Snark, the podcast that celebrates all of the shows that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts. I am Rachel Quirky Shank, Bean Squeaker, apparently.
Beans?
Really squeaked on that. Beans today.
Okay. I was like, I don't understand the reference. Oh, it literally just happened.
It just happened in real time.
And I am Matty K. Fuck. I am Matty K. Stormageddon. I clearly can't speak, and I am very exhausted, but I'm happy to be here. And
There's crushing this one early on.
I have not been sleeping well thanks to my incredible puppy, who I love so much. But when he doesn't want to go to bed at 2 a.m., and I really do, unfortunately, he wins out in the end. But enough about how tired I am. I want to introduce our incredible guest. It's Robin from Books That Burn. Robin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is great. Yeah.
I'm very excited to have you on. We've been wanting to have you and Nicole on the show. Nicole is next on our list. But we slowly cycle through all the CPOV hosts, just trying to get them all on the show.
It's true. Just so I can feel extra guilty when I forget the titles of all of them. I feel like Books That Burn is one that I constantly rely on. It's such a catchy title for a show.
Thank you so much.
Though I do put an accidental question mark on it a bunch. I'm like, Books That Burn?
Well, so like implicitly it's Books That Burn You is like the kind of thought behind that phrasing.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. So you made even more tasty by explanation.
Love explanations behind a podcast title. We're going to talk more about Books That Burn and Robin's incredible book reviews in a little bit. But before we do any of that, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to talk about the most recent things we have watched, and I, as usual, will continue to go first. And for those who've been following me on Twitter, you may know that I've been chatting on Twitter with mutual friend of the show, the incredible Patrick Willems, about the Mission Impossible franchise. We know how much he loves it. He talks about it constantly. Guested on a Mission Impossible related podcast, I believe, as well this year. And so when I started that adventure, I started tweeting at him, and we've been having these wonderful dialogues on Twitter about each movie and how he loves these movies. Like, it's not a bit. Like, he loves these films.
He really does. To go behind the curtain here, having podcasted with him for a couple years, really loves these Mission Impossible movies. Was very excited to see a recent one in theaters. Yeah. I distinctly recall.
And so I had started that adventure with my incredible spouse, Sarah, who's a previous guest of the show, because we like watching trashy action films together. Not saying that these are them, but they kind of fit in that category, right? Like, we love the John Wick ones are more than trashy, but they are action films. Like, they're just heart-pumping films, Atomic Blonde, Gunpowder Milkshake, like all these films that, yeah, it's great if it has a good story, but mostly you're there for the ass-kicking and the explosions. And so we're always on the look for those kinds of things. And like the Mission Impossible franchise, I remembered only the second movie really well. I remember that one being an action fest. Turns out that's kind of the anomaly-ish. But we were like, well, if we're going to watch them, I'd seen the first three, but could barely remember one or three. And I think Sarah had only seen the first two. And so I was like, all right, you know what? Let's start from the beginning. We'll just watch them from the beginning. And so we watched 1 and 2. And then the most recent one we watched, I believe, last Saturday, we watched 3. And when I tell you I didn't remember most of this movie, like, what's funny is Mission Impossible 2, I remembered all of, beat for beat. It is not a great movie. It's a John Woo joint, and I tend to like a lot of John Woo stuff, but this was like lots of slow-mo, ridiculous action shots. The soundtrack was great in that shitty 2000s way. Like, the Metallica track and Limp Bizkit tracks that were on it were like fun and stupid. But like the first movie I remembered bits and pieces of, but the third movie literally remembered Philip Seymour Hoffman was in it and almost nothing else. But to make a already very too long story short, I loved it. I really liked the third movie. For those who don't remember the progress of the franchise, 1 was meant to be a standalone. When it got a sequel, it changed directors and became this big action flick. Bombed. Nobody liked it. And then the third one also bombed, but redirected the series. Or maybe it was 2 that was a blockbuster and 3 that bombed. But 3 it takes place a period of time after the first 2 movies. Ethan Hunt has settled down. Ethan Hunt has a wife now, and like has kind of put the field work behind him. And then shit goes awry, and he has to go into the field again. But he has not told his spouse what he does yet, and it actually ends up being a really good and interesting story. And when you think it's going to be like Woman is Prize or like Damsel in Distress, even though his spouse gets kidnapped, ultimately it's not about him just saving her, even when he gets there, which I like. I happen to really love Tom Cruise as an actor. All of the Scientology stuff is weird and sucks, and like it's a cult, but like if we can put that in a box for a small moment, I genuinely do like him as an actor. And I have friends who are actors who have said, like, he is genuinely one of the nicest people you ever meet and always makes you feel like you're the only person in a room. I have a friend who, like, has worked on sets as, like, a crewman. And when he talks to you, he's not, like, making small talk just to amuse you. Like, he genuinely wants to be there with you in that moment. And I think that's kind of cool. But the film itself is really good. Like the first film, it's more plotting. There's more like solving of things. The cast is great. I mean, Ving Rhames is back. He's the only consistency through the first 3 films. Philip Seymour Hoffman, of course, is an incredible actor and plays an incredible villain in this. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers is like a baby in this, like this tiny little baby boy, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. Still adorable and very pretty, obnoxiously so. But Kerry Russell's in this, Maggie Q, Simon Pegg. This is like his debut in the series. He becomes a regular as well.
Yeah, he's really big in it. I remember the Dubai Tower one. Simon Pegg's all over that movie.
And then Michelle Monaghan, of course, who plays Julia, his wife, who is incredible and also becomes a franchise staple after this. Yeah, it was really entertaining. You know, I think that also Billy Crudup is in it. And the minute I saw him, I was like, bad guy. Like, not to spoil this movie that's been out for a while, but the minute I saw him, I was like, bad guy. He is either the bad guy in every film or is on his way to be the bad guy, a la Mr. Manhattan, who's sort of the bad guy. Dr. Manhattan. Sorry, I took away his doctorate. I shouldn't do that.
It's okay. It's not the only thing he lost.
It's true.
Well,
but,
you know, he lost his little Dr. Manhattan.
But yeah, I mean, it's a fun movie. I'm excited though because from 4 on is like it's the same director, I believe, and it's and then like Tom Cruise also is like part of the production crew and like part of like planning the movies from that point forward. They became his vehicle for doing crazy stunts. And I believe the 4th one is either Rogue Nation or I think it's Rogue Nation. I think that's the one where Henry Cavill reloads his arms. The only thing I know from this franchise that I remember indefinitely is there's a trailer of a fight in a bathroom where Henry Cavill with a really bad mustache reloads his arms, like he swings them. I don't know if that's either the 4th or the 5th. I know it's one of the more recent ones.
I thought the 4th one.
Or is the 4th one with the Dubai Tower? I don't remember.
I can't remember. That feels. my understanding of how time works based on these Mission Impossible movies is always skewed where I'm just like, wouldn't the 4th one have been out in like
I don't
before
know.
the pandemic? How do these movies work?
Yeah.
Because I definitely haven't seen the Henry Cavill charges his arms one, but I have seen the Dubai Tower one.
Okay, so that might be the 4th one. I mean,
I don't know. I really want to rewatch the Mission Impossible franchise though, and you're making me like really hungry for it because I've maybe only watched like the first one and the Dubai Tower one, whichever that one is.
I mean, presumably since you're going through them, you'll have an answer for everyone later about which is the 4th and which one is the 5th before too long.
Yeah, I mean,
put it on our social medias. You can follow us at @screen_snark.
That's true, and just tweet at us. But yeah, I mean, I was entertained by all of them. It's funny, the second one, for as much action and like over the top cheesiness was in it, it was actually particularly boring. Which is like, oh man, I'm an adult now. Things exploding doesn't mean entertaining anymore. I mean, it can, But
Not
it turns out you need.
automatically.
Well, not
Right.
with that attitude.
It
I
turns
think
out
explosions
you
are
need-
still really cool.
Turns out you need some entertaining writing or good writing at all. Although the thing that has been fun about watching all three of them recently is that Tom Cruise looks like a itty bitty baby in the first one, even though he's not that young. And in the second one, there is Tindalwe Newton from, most famously now from, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it. Westworld. Is like a little baby in that one. Like she plays the love interest in the second one and like just looks like some people look like they don't age. And she doesn't like, she still looks great now, but there's something about like this baby face she had in that film that I completely forgot about even though she was in it.
It's someone with an iconic face you have now
Yeah.
having the face of them but younger. It's very trippy. Like I always felt that way looking at young stills of like Betty White, where I'm just like, I see your
It's the
iconic
same
face
face.
in there,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not iconic to me. It's so strange.
With
I love it.
with Tindalwe also, it's like I know her as a famous actress after this point. Like I remember her being in this film, but she was an older woman when like I remember seeing her in a bunch of stuff back to back, and so that face is more burned into my brain. In a similar way that Robin Williams, though I've known him since he was a young actor, like and Mork and Mindy and that iconic stuff. If I had seen that after more recent stuff, it would break my brain in a similar way. But yeah, the film was really good. I like the third one. I think that, Rachel, if you're going to go down this path, also start from the beginning. Second
Yeah.
one's going to be rough, but the first one's worth rewatching because one thing that I do love about all these films, and especially in the third one, is the big deal about the first film, for those who don't remember, is that there's a face reveal at the end where where Tom Cruise pulls off this mask, and it was like early CGI, but it was flawless, but they could only do it once. Like the rest of the mask work looked a little cheesy, but at the end, like when he reveals himself at the end of the film, it's like this really cool CGI for this brief moment, and it looks like he's pulling his face off. That becomes a thing over the course of the rest of the movies, and they
Well, wasn't
overuse
the
it.
original television series? Didn't they have like masks?
They
could
did,
wear?
yeah. Like they would
Yeah.
all these masters of disguise, but there was the CG technology was so new for that first film that they only used the really good one for that last shot. Whereas in the second film, and especially the third film, they're just doing it constantly. People are becoming other people, and like it's really cool.
Who's a Cylon? I don't know.
Yeah, right, but like. I feel like it becomes a little too much. I hear that they scale it back in the later movies, but like in the third one, like Tom Cruise becomes Philip Seymour Hoffman early on in the movie, and it's done really brilliantly, like the transition of him becoming this other person. But it's also, it just feels like a lot. But all in all, definitely worth watching. I don't know why it bombed at theaters. I think it was actually a very good movie. The cast was really good. The writing was really good. And the cinematography was really interesting. It was a little darker than some of the other films, but like the shots were really interesting. And so, yeah, all in all, I'm enjoying this ride so far. I'm excited to get to the fourth one because it's the first one I've seen nothing of other than the trailers and stuff. And I'm excited to catch up to the newest one, which I think is part one of a two-parter, which is interesting because they had not done two-parters in this series yet before then. So, yeah, Mission Impossible 3, good stuff, worth watching.
Cool.
That was too many words. We
I
still
know.
gotta do what we always do. Matt,
Yes.
if you had to sum up Mission Impossible 3 in just 3 words, wow, what synergy here? And you can't use Mission Impossible or 3. I'm sorry, I'm gonna remove that from the running.
Okay,
I think it'll
fair.
be easy enough to avoid.
I think I'll be all right.
How would you describe this piece?
I would say action, intrigue, disguises.
Ooh, love that. Very good.
No
Action,
sentence this time.
intrigue,
Just
disguises.
3 words.
Yeah, sometimes it's just got to be a vibe check.
It does sometimes.
Yeah.
But now that we've gotten through my Mission Impossible, see what I did there? Rachel, what is the most recent thing that you have watched that you have brought to the show?
Well, I have fallen into a particularly powerful wind tunnel, if I may say, of a rewatch of a show. I am this is dominating all of my attention right now. Everything else I'm watching is like either not finished or like, close to finishing. But this has been my like days and days of media consumption. Almost like I fell into a well and was transported back to feudal Japan.
Okay, I was wondering where this was going.
I am Kagome, and I've been rewatching Inuyasha.
Interesting. Are you Wait, one quick question: are you watching it in English or in Japanese?
I'm watching the dub because.
Okay. I mean, that's what I watched growing up.
I have to revisit my Adult Swim anime roots.
Right, of course.
I mostly wanted to start Yashahime, but once I was like, I don't even remember how Inuyasha ended. I should maybe go back and do that because I watched it all on syndication on Adult Swim. So,
Same.
like, very similarly to a lot of very foundational shows for me, I have a recollection of them in a absolutely buck wild order.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm watching it completely on purpose chronologically, it's great.
I remember it being really good.
I was unsure because I watched it at that time where like everything on Adult Swim appealed to me, so
Right.
I don't know what holds up, what doesn't, but it's really good. It has some of the most natural dialogue between anime characters I've ever encountered. Like they're just like our little Shardhun crew is just really natural and friendly with one another. It's really lovely to behold. I highly recommend it. I'm not finished with all of the seasons, so I can't tell you how Inuyasha ends, but I did just finish season 4.
Okay.
But the seasons are broken down in such weird ways that it's hard to like really get into because all of a sudden the intro will change, but it's still in the same season. But then the outro will change while the intro it kind of just it's very like timey-wimey to watch. But I think it's absolutely fantastic. I can really understand why this is the show that got me into anime.
That's really...
I love it. I go back. Go revisit it. Revisit that well near the magic tree.
Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up watching it and watching it on Adult Swim. It was an early one for me as well. I mean, so my favorite character was Moroku, but I remember him being particularly problematic because he was kind of a lech.
I mean, he's definitely a lecher, but I like to find the reasoning behind choices that are made, and the reasoning behind his lechery for me is he has a generational mission, and if he dies before he has a kid, then his mission to get Nuraku and like end this wind tunnel curse dies with him.
Right.
So it's kind of like it makes more sense than someone like a Mineta in My Hero, where Mineta is just kind of pervy because like you need a pervy character, but there really hasn't been established like a good reasoning for it. And looking at it from the lens of we're having fun, and we have a dynamic of a couple where one of them can yell "sit boy" at the other and he falls into the ground. You just kind of go in with cartoon lenses, and I kind of find Moroku's lechery endearing in a weird way. It's 2022. Cancel me. I think Moroku being a weird pervert girls is fucking adorable.
I mean, so I think I think with anime there are levels, right? Also, like for me, like having some realizations. Rachel and I having recently on an episode of Fun and Games, we just aired our a panel we did at FlameCon. And talked a lot about monster fucking in that panel. And Inuyasha is an early gateway, I am realizing, with a demon with little cat ears, dog ears.
He's so sexy. I'm sorry. He's still so sexy. Richard Cox's voice work on Inuyasha just does it for me.
Yeah. And so, but it's fun to hear that it's worth going back to because I was always never sure. Because, like, I've rewatched old Dragon Ball Z, and I'm a Dragon Ball Z lover, like, unabashedly. But those early episodes are rough to get through. The Arrival Saga and the Sand Saga are just, like, they're so weirdly paced. And, like, I haven't watched Super at all. And I haven't watched Kai, which is, like, the re-edit of them, which I've heard is good, really good.
Yeah, Kai's the one that I was probably going to watch when I finally get around to it.
But, like, I am excited to hear that Inuyasha holds up. I think I own the whole first half of the series on DVD, but I don't
It's all on Hulu
remember.
right now for you if you want.
Amazing.
It's been a balm, honestly. And I love so much because I ended up watching a retrospective about it. Because again, I was gonna watch Yashahime, and I was watching this retrospective and having all my memories, and I was just like, no, I'm rewatching Inuyasha.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it. And a discussion about filler episodes. And it's really interesting to note that some of my favorite, most memorable, iconic Inuyasha episodes have been those filler episodes. They've been the ones that stick with me a lot. And I love that because so much we have the discussion of something outpacing its source material and it all falls apart. But Inuyasha is a really great example of when it doesn't, where they just go, okay, we have these really rich, full characters. What if they meet a little random demon girl who wants to fight Shippo? Like, who cares? We'll just go. We'll have fun with it. And I think that's so much to the credit of the source material and the mangaka who just wrote these really lovely characters who have a common cause and interesting stakes and dynamics with each other. You know, they all feel like they have individual relationships with
Right.
everyone in the group. And it's a little monster of the wiki to start off with, you know, while we're sort of establishing our main antagonist and like his backstory. But I think everything has aged so well on Inuyasha. Even the Kagome, Kikyo, Inuyasha love triangle, I understand so much more as an adult than I did as a kid. And it's really lovely to behold, you know, even if it's just like, Inuyasha, you just need to like cut off one of them. Like, you can't just like flip and flop like this. But it's also like he's by accounts like 17, 18 in demon years.
Yeah.
And like to his recollection, he got stabbed by his girlfriend like 2 months ago.
Right.
So of course he's gonna have troubles being like, I know she's dead, but like I loved her 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I was going to give up everything for this bitch 2 months ago. You can't tell me it's just 50 years and I got to get over it. Like, what are you talking about? It's great. I love it. The cast is amazing. The animation, still really lovely, haunting. The demon work is so cool and interesting. I can't complain. I can't. I'm at the Band of Seven arc, and I fucking love the Band of Seven. It all has come back to me in the most beautiful nostalgia pie.
That's awesome. I love that. I haven't watched a lot of anime lately. I started rewatching Cowboy Bebop with Sarah because we wanted to watch the live action, which has now been canceled, but I'll still eventually watch. But I wanted to get through the original first because I just remember it meaning so much to me. And on rewatch, it's so exciting to see stuff that's from the 2000s and stuff that I only sort of remember really hold up, especially stuff like Cowboy Bebop, because the music was so influential to me and the stories were. And to hear that Inuyasha has been the same for you is exciting because I'd forgotten how big of a part of my life that was in a similar way to Dragon Ball Z, because I just haven't rewatched or engaged with that community much anymore. And like, I started My Hero, I started it twice, and like, I'm 4 episodes in, and I really like it. I just have trouble sitting down and watching TV on my own. I watch a lot of stuff mostly with my spouse, and so it's nice to hear that Inuyasha really holds up, because I do want to go back to it.
Yeah, it's the show that I've been watching. It's my own show where I'm just like, oh, I'm in my house by myself. I'm gonna kill some hours, and hang in a feudal fairy tale for a while. I'm finding it just immensely bingeable.
Interesting.
In the best way, where I'm just like, I'll watch one more. Okay, I'm gonna watch one more. Okay, I'm gonna watch one more. It's so fun. I adore this. I'm so glad that it was my intro to anime and that I can come back to it years later and go, I am seeing so much more in this, and I have such a deeper understanding of who and what these characters are and what they're about.
Right.
The fact that like they all are after Naraku for very personal reasons, but also like they gotta save the world from him. And every time Naraku like pulls his shit, you just feel bad for each of them on individual levels because of what this motherfucker did to them directly. It's great. Good villain work, even if he's just a little piece of shit who builds puppets. I love him. I love it. It's so good.
Your final few descriptions answered the question I forgot to ask, which was like, can we swear on this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, there's no way you said that if you were going to beep it. Okay, cool. Great. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
no, I wouldn't put that work on myself. To edit my own swears? Never.
Well, Rachel, if you had to sum up all of Inuyasha in just 3 words, and you could not use the word Inuyasha, the title of the anime, what 3 words would you choose?
Formative, feudal, fairy tale.
Hell yeah, love it. I was also tempted to ban you from using Sit Boy,
Yeah, I wouldn't.
just because.
I'm not even mad that they overuse Sit Boy. It's funny.
It is funny.
Shit's funny.
I like slapstick in anime and cartoons. Like, that's always funny to me. And so, like, I've always been a fan of physical comedy. I love folks like George Carlin and Robin Williams. And so, like, it's one of those things that when anime does, like, the really over-the-top physical comedy, in the same way that, like, in Dragon Ball Z, when the characters, like, kind of flail when they're freaking out, like, that's always kind of funny to me. So, Cool. Awesome. Well, I'll have to revisit it then, and we'll have to compare notes. Maybe we'll do an Inuyasha special.
Oh my gosh, could we?
We could. Sure.
I need to watch all the movies.
Yeah. I forgot that there were movies.
There's like so many movies.
Like 3 or 4, I thought, or
Yeah.
maybe 5, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. And then Yashahime, I can't. Give me all of it. My body is so ready.
Well, now it is time to chat with our incredible guest, Robin. Robin, what is the most recent thing you have watched that you've brought to the show?
So slightly less. So honorable mentions to slightly less recently. I had done it took like a friend and me like 9 months to get through The Sopranos, but I saw all of it. We were watching everything we thought would get nominated for the Oscars. And we thought maybe the movie would get nominated for the Oscars. And then the answer was no, but we pushed through and finished the series anyway. And then saw the movie and it was like, yeah, okay, that was fine. Whatever. The show's great. And then watching the spiritual successor of Mad Men, because it's got a bunch of the same people. Right. Probably if I'm on again, I hopefully will have watched Mad Men and we'll get to say something about it. And then also recently saw Infinity Train, all of it. I am sad that the other half of it doesn't seem like it's going to happen because 4 seasons is half of what it was supposed to be, but probably is all we're going to get. So that's sad. But the thing that I love, that I'm the one who gets my partner to watch this rather than the other way around, is competition shows.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Rachel's favorite.
Early in our relationship, we watched a bunch of oh my God, it's dropping out of my head. We've seen some of Survivor, not as a ton of Survivor, because you could just spend your whole life doing that. But what I am currently watching, and we'll probably be done with it by like next week, is, oh my goodness. Sorry.
I am on pins and needles to know what this is going to be.
I forgot to I was remembering all the puns in it, but I forgot to write down the title. Blown Away.
Yes!
Is what we're watching.
Yes,
watch the
weird
first
crafter reality competition shows are the fucking
best.
Best.
It's great. So we watched the first 2 seasons of Blown Away, and then we're halfway through Blown Away Christmas, because that's just like a little mini thing with contestants who'd already been on there for the first 2 seasons. So Blown Away is a glassworking competition, and I loved the idea of glass blowing because I have been to Ren Fair and because I had read the Circle of Magic books by Tamara Pierce. And so it was like, okay, I like the idea of this and I know all the words. And I hadn't actually watched any. And it's really cool. And I don't understand how this show can say so many times that everyone has a personal glory hole and not crack up. I don't know how they do it. They manage it somehow.
Amazing.
Years of working in glass blowing.
I mean, it's like if there was like a super critical podcasting tool that was called a blowjob and we just didn't let it we just didn't crack up ever about
Oh
it.
yeah, I love uploading my my finished episodes to my blowjob. You know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like,
I can't do it. Challenge failed.
no, like I don't know how they avoid cracking up over this, especially when the show is emphasizing how much they all have their own, and so it's their personal glory hole, and it's like, okay, all right.
I mean, I'm
Thanks.
a child, so like that stuff, like I fail every time that stuff happens.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's a competition. You got 10 people competing to be the best in glass.
Yeah.
Love it.
And to see whether the judges will be blown away.
Wow.
And yeah. Yeah. And it is mostly blown glass, but depending on the challenge, some people do things that where blown glass isn't a major. They do some sculpting. It just depends. There's in the second season there was a contestant who was what's called a fire worker, which is where you have just like a hot torch to move the glass at the bench after you get it
Interesting.
moving and you have your gather. But yeah, so I did not like that guy very much, but
I love the personality types that are
Yeah.
drawn to glass blowing because it's the wildest gamut. Like great pottery throwdown. Everyone's kind of like chill and want to vibe. Like some of them are like, yeah, I just really like the way the clay feels, and some people are like, yeah, I just really love getting into it. But they all like have a deep love for like each other and the clay. You know, but then like blown away, they all just fucking hate each other and just want to break each other's glass. It's
I might need to find Great Pottery Showdown. I might need to pick your brain about
Yeah.
competition shows.
it's so very good. One of the judges is sometimes so impressed and so moved by these works of porcelain that he'll cry. He cries over
Oh my God.
pottery, and it's maybe the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's so good for my heart.
But yeah,
But
so
I do want to know because I don't get a lot of people who watch these weird ass shows with
Yeah.
me.
And I don't. I never do.
Like, can you sort of talk to me about your emotional experience watching them deal with glass? Because I'm terrified.
So, it makes me want to do that, which is an urge
Very
that I
cool.
have for every single competition show I've ever watched, including
Yep.
Survivor. And so it makes me want to do that, and then I see if that lingers and whether I'm going to get a new temporary hobby. But yeah, the thing is, whatever the thing is that people's brains do when they're imagining things, my brain doesn't do that. And so I can stare at that screen all day and not think about being on fire, actually. So, yeah,
I'm
that's
mostly
like...
just nervous that it's gonna break because it's such a delicate process. where I'm
Oh,
just like,
yeah. No, like I'll be worried for them maybe that it's going to break, but also I pay attention to like the music cues and how the show is framing it.
Yeah.
And if the show is framing it like it's going to break, I don't know, I have kind of like a fatalistic, well, the music said something was going to break, so I don't know what they were expecting. Like
Gotta lob that emotional meatball at me, and I'm over here like, is it gonna break? I don't know.
yeah.
Are they gonna get in the kill?
Occasionally I do not like them. I'm like, I hope that breaks, but not often. Like there weren't many that I didn't like. I did not like the fireworker.
Yeah.
Just didn't.
The one who was like in competition with former students, I didn't enjoy him either.
Yeah, but my partner pointed out that he was playing the heel.
It's true, but he
like,
did a good job.
He
at the
did it.
healing.
He did a good job of being the heel. And like we find out partway through about like a really, really personal tragedy that happened like literally the day he arrived for the competition.
Oh, right.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
Like he arrived the day of the competition and got some like deeply upsetting personal news. And he like finally talks about that several episodes in. And since these challenges are back to back, it looked like he took like a week or something to process this, like,
Yeah, but I feel like
very
they spaced these out a lot.
well, they phrase it like they say like they're doing the challenges back to back. Like they talk about it like they are. They make a comment about how like exhausting it is and how they haven't really had a break. And it's possible that they're playing it up. Like there was this baking competition that we watched. Oh my goodness, what was that? There was this baking competition that we'd watched previously where like they had the contestants be in their same clothes the entire time. And like they did all this stuff to make it look like they literally hadn't had a break at all.
Yeah.
Baking Impossible.
Okay.
Yeah, Baking Impossible was another competition show.
On
Yeah,
Screen
that we saw recently. And yeah, wait, no, that might not be it. I might have found a different show that did the same thing. Interesting.
Yeah, because
I was
a lot of the shows, like, they have
thinking it was
long
Baking
breaks
Impossible, and
and
it's
like
not.
meal breaks and stuff like that, and they do wear their same clothes, and you start to notice like you're wearing the same outfit, but like I don't think this is the same thing.
It wasn't Baking Impossible, but there was some baking competition show we watched on Netflix where like they literally specifically were it was a show that was combining baking and engineering. And I cannot remember what it was. I'm sorry.
I wanna watch it. It's okay. I'll
Yeah,
find it.
yeah.
I find a way. Me and crafting reality shows, we'll find them.
Yeah. But anyway, watch that. And they like were in the dialogue in the show. They were like over the top pretending that they literally hadn't had a break and were completely back to back. And it's like they would have been up for 5 days straight. This isn't, it's not really. And
you
like,
legally can't do this on a film set.
I was actually, well, because like they were baking for like 6 hours at a time. And so I was actually slightly upset when the finale like referred to them taking a break. I was like, no, you do not break this illusion. Like, what are you doing? You're this many episodes in and you finally acknowledge that they might need to rest ever. What are you doing? Stop it. But anyway, Blown Away is a lot of fun, and they're like working with glass, and like they'll have a guest judge every episode, and that kind of like shapes the direction of the episode a little bit, because like they'll talk about their personal stories. And like there was this really cool episode where a football player who as a hobby blows glass, like a professional football player who also blows glass was the guest judge. And one of the contestants was talking about how like she has a degenerative thing where she is going blind, and her mom had the same thing. And so she knows how many years her mom had where she could still see. And then like there was this perfect moment where we're like, hey, so is the football player going to talk about how doing a thing that you love also shortens your time for being able to do the thing that you love? And we're like, it looks like they missed it. And then they didn't. Like they like a minute or two later, like that moment like happens, and like they go for it, and like they talk about that very briefly. And so it was like this really cool like connection moment. And like when we first thought it was going to happen was when it was just the judges talking to each other, and they saved it for when it was the judges talking to the contestants. And so it was like a much better time for that moment. But my last thought about this show is that they end their episodes very weirdly. It'd be like, you know, if I was like, and that's why I think it's cool that we've switched to LCD TVs. Episode's over. It'd be like, I don't know, just all the time. It's like, why was that your last thought? Like, why is that the last thing? And then you go straight to the credits. Like, they all feel weirdly cut. But just at the ending, it's like, why is that happening?
You don't have to think about it. It's Netflix. It's autoplay. Don't panic. We don't have to end these while you're watching.
I mean, it's not even like the way Nailed It does it, where they're like, "Hey, we know you're on Netflix. Just watch the next one." It's not even like that. You'll just have someone like say a random thing about Glass or being on the episode, and then it just goes straight to credits with no like musical lead out, no like auditory or like visual transition to get to the credits. It's just like in the middle of an exit interview for the person who's leaving, and then it just like cuts on one of the random things they said about how they're leaving, and then it's just gone. So it's just this little quirky thing about how the episodes are.
That's very strange.
Yeah.
Well, Robin, if you had to sum up Blown Away with just 3 words, and those 3 words could not be blown or away, what 3 words would you use to summarize this show?
Whoops, it broke.
Well done. Well done.
Genius.
A+.
Yeah, don't worry.
Genius.
If you want, I know where to find the weird reality competition stuff. Floral arranging.
I would like your list of weird reality competition shows, because I love those.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it's one of those things where like I the only reality shows I'll watch is like I have a couple. Like I used to watch Mythbusters when that was still on. Adam Savage had like a spin-off show that was okay that I fell off of. And then the one show that's reality very loosely that I still watch is called The Grand Tour. It's the 3 hosts of the original BBC Top Gear that I just fell in love with for some reason. And I'm not even that much of a car person, but they ended up going over to Amazon when they left the BBC and made their own show. And like now it's become where like they used to do seasons of that, but now it's like 3 times a year they'll do these short films, like these hour-and-a-half long like journeys together as a competition. And it's goofy and silly, and I just like these personalities. But like I've tried watching competition shows, and I just kind of it either gets my anxiety going because I truly worry for these people, or I just get bored. And so that said, I also can't watch a lot of TV. I lean into video games more than TV these days, and so that's part of it too, I think.
Yeah, I think I just really like watching someone do a craft, and like the most gluttonous way to see a lot of people throw a pot is to watch 12 of them in competition throwing a pot. You know, and like getting to hear their insight on like how they got into what they're doing, or like what their inspiration is behind their like large project. It's why like British Bake Off's great, Blown Away, you know, like it's just then I get to watch a craftsman do their thing, you know, and then like feel excited and be like, I really liked this one. I liked the flower toilet the best. I hope the judges also liked what I liked.
Amazing. Well, now let's talk a little bit with Robin about their incredible podcast that they do with Nicole.
Last thought, real quick.
Yes, please.
Hey, I was right. Baking Impossible is what we watched.
Okay,
I just thought there were more seasons, and we watched a different thing after it that I confused with it. But we did watch Baking Impossible, and it was great. So, yeah.
I'm glad you shared that. It was important to get to correct.
Did not want to lose that thought.
No,
My apologies.
No apologies needed. But I do want to talk about Books That Burn. I want to talk about your podcast and your book reviews. I want to talk first to start, which we've done with a lot of the other hosts and folks who've come over to our network. Like, I don't actually know the origin story of Books That Burn. I'm pretty sure our connecting point is Frankie, but like beyond that, I don't know like how you started the podcast, why you started it, how you ended up like coming over to CPOV and all that stuff. And so I'd love for like a little origin story about Books That Burn and how it came to be.
Yeah. So just quick disclaimer. So our podcast is about fictional depictions of trauma. And so I might use examples of kinds of trauma. I'm not going to discuss any detail, but I'm going to be mentioning the existence of traumatic things, of the kinds of things that end up in books. So very brief warning for that. Okay. Mention no descriptions. Okay. So we both love books. We is myself and my sibling and co-host Nicole. And I'm the kind of person who would like reread series on a loop. Like I used to just read constantly. And when I say constantly, I mean I had 2 books on me on all times, because what if I finish one? And I read very, very quickly. And so like in middle school and high school, I would arrive at school, turn in the 2 books I had finished the night before, check out 2 new books from the school library, and generally finish at least one of them before I got home. And so I would stop by the library as my last thing before I went home and swap out either one or both of the books that I had finished.
Wow.
And then I mean, once I was home, I may or may not finish the 2 books, but I pretty steadily finished at least 1 book during the school day, and depending on how the evening went, maybe 1 or 2 more that night. Because I didn't go anywhere and I didn't do anything other than my job that was for a neighbor next door. And so I was either watching Law and Order, reading books, or working at my job that was 30 feet away. So I did that for all of middle school. And by high school, I got friends, one of whom is currently my partner. But anyway, so reading a ton. And Nicole was differently reading a bunch. Nicole would go to the library and bring like a tub home, and this was the tub of books that she checked out from the library. And like, you know, whenever she's on the podcast, I'll let her like talk about more about that if she wants to, whatever. But anyway, so we're both voracious readers, and I had actually switched kind of to podcasts because I could do stuff while I was listening to a podcast.
Right?
Yeah, if
Yeah,
I could
exactly.
figure out how to do stuff while I read, I would read so much more.
Well, the audiobooks.
It is called an
That's-
audiobook,
yeah,
actually.
that's how I do it.
Oh boy, I zone out though.
The-
Fair.
I'll start
That's
thinking.
fair.
This is my problem with. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but my
That's
problem
okay.
with reading is like I have too much of an imagination, and like I'll just be reading, and then I'll like start thinking about what I just read, and I'll realize that my eyes are still like skimming the words, but I'm thinking an entirely different thought about like what Dougal said like a paragraph before, and I'm just like, wait a minute, what did I just read?
Oh no, I don't
I
picture
am-
anything, and my only monologue is intrusive thoughts, so
Yeah,
I try to
my-
keep those to a minimum.
I'm
and
reading
so,
it to myself and then getting distracted by what I just read to myself. It takes me forever to finish books.
oh no, if that was how it was, I couldn't do this. But no, I don't picture anything. There's no movie in my head. There's just the pure concept of whatever happened on the page, and I read so quickly that to see a paragraph for me is nearly the same as having read it.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, my phone's in French so that I don't obsessively read every single piece of text on the screen every single time I see it, because that was a thing for a while. I need something to slow me down, and having it in a different language works for that. But anyway, with reading, we both read a ton, and one of the things that was frustrating and made it harder to feel like I could grab new books was that every once in a while I'd grab a new book and the author would be like, you know what this plot needs? Rape. Just for funsies, you know?
Yeah, of
just to
course.
like, yeah, you know?
Sure.
Just,
How are you
'Cause-
gonna know that our bad character is bad?
yeah, there's no other way to know. And how else are you supposed to know that like this character is someone like worth rescuing or whatever if they don't have this like really horrific event happen that we never actually process? So, you know, so basically, Nicole separately, I don't know if I don't think we had talked about this at all as like a mutual frustration, but one day Nicole was like, and I was married and moved away, so it was like a phone call or something. It was like, hey, so you know how there's like random sexual assault in books for no reason, and it's really frustrating? I would like to have a podcast about that. I was like, okay. I had already tried to start a book review podcast with a different sibling, and it didn't work because I was going to edit it, and there's no way. This is not happening. It's just not. just no, not happening. We had recorded 3 episodes and they sat on my computer and did nothing. So Nicole already knew that, generally speaking, I was interested in having a podcast because I had been going through podcasts like I'd been going through books. So I had tried 400 to 500 podcasts at that point.
Wow.
Because I was just listening. I was trying every podcast that a podcast I was listening to recommended. And
That's impressive.
I started with some NPR podcasts. I think one of them was like they briefly had a podcast recommending podcast, and so like, and then from there, like, I just branched, and I churned through them. Had some that I kept, some that I didn't. I tried hundreds of podcasts before, and then the mix that I keep has slowly shifted over the years. But yeah, so Nicole knew that I was very interested in podcasts and was like, hey, I would like to talk about this. You are interested in having a podcast? And Nicole said that she'd do the editing. And I was like, great. That sounds like a plan.
Picking the right sibling.
Yeah. And then we're trying to figure out the name. And I was like, okay, Nicole, we had thought about the name The Trauma Cast, and it's like, no, we do not want to scare people away.
Yeah, that'd be a tough sell.
Yeah, but I said, okay, it's books with trauma in them. And also, like, we're both non-binary, I'm trans, and, like, the very famous pile of burned books was the Institute for Sexuality in Germany. Like, when I say the pile of burned books, if you went to school in the US, I truly mean the pile, the photo that you saw that's super old of that. It's that one. And they burned this library of the Nazis burned this library of this institute that was for queer people, specifically, but not only trans people. And it was all this stuff and like their transitions and just all this literature and all of this like current medical info. And the Nazis burned it. Mm-hmm. And it was like, okay, people burn books and that sucks. And these are books where when you read them, they can hurt you, potentially. And I don't like we'd I think been maybe a little worried at the start that we wouldn't like always find something to talk about in each book, but it turns out the Western storytelling convention of using conflict to drive plot pretty much always gives us something to talk about. Like, we might have trouble if we were trying to focus on literature in a different language or from a different part of the world where storytelling conventions are different and not all plots are driven by conflict. But as English speakers, most of the books we have access to are in this style. And if I try a random one that isn't, well, I just don't recommend it as a candidate for our show. And it's no big deal. Yeah, so we started the podcast by talking about His Dark Materials, that trilogy. Sure. And another one of our early ones was the Old Kingdom series by Garth Nix, which is a series that we love and which has gotten the 6th book is about to come out. When we first covered the episodes, there were only 5 of them. We both love Mogget as a character. Anyway, so we started with books where both of us had read them and then realized very, very quickly that if we kept 2 books that we had already read as white people growing up in Ohio, then our reads would not be diverse enough. And so I started, because I am the one scouting out our material for the podcast, I started like specifically diversifying my reading, and I started like a book review blog of written reviews to find future material. And so the thought was, okay, if I am reading diversely, then the books that I end up picking as candidates for the podcast are also going to be diverse, because it would be very hard for them not to be. Mm-hmm. rather than trying to like artificially have some focus of like, okay, we got to get this kind of author or this kind of author. It's no, I'm just going to read diversely, and I have a diverse pool of candidates for our discussion. And that seems to have gone very well. Now we launched the podcast in 2019 and it's 2022. So we're in October. It'll be 3 years.
Yeah, congrats.
So thank you.
Nice.
Podcasting, it's mostly just getting it done consistently every
Yeah.
every release
Turns out
schedule.
Yeah, it turns out if you just do the thing, it all adds up.
Just it
And then
gets
it
done.
happens.
It turns out if you do the thing gets done.
Yep. Yeah, a very long time ago, I watched a show on Hulu called The Booth at the End, and I love it. The entire thing happens in a booth at a diner. They don't go anywhere; they're just talking. And I can't imagine stuff. So it was a great show for me. They're just in a booth talking. Anyway, there's this thing where this guy asks someone. The person wanted their marriage to be magically fixed. And the guy asks, are you sure you want to have a happy marriage, or do you want to have had a happy marriage? And I think about that distinction a lot with projects and things that take place over time, where it's like, do you want the day-to-day doing the work and making this thing happen? Or would you like to be able to tell somebody that you did this thing and it's over now? Anyway, and so with podcasts, if I'm the editor, I would like to have had a podcast. If I don't have to do the editing, I would like to have a podcast. And I think Nicole feels similarly about reading the new books, because if Nicole were the one doing the written book reviews, this wouldn't, because like they prefer to reread. Like we both do, but I can like reread in between to kind of like emotionally reset my tank, because it is different when you already know the emotional contours of the story and you already know what stresses you're going to hit. That's very, very different from reading a book for the first time. And so I will like read ahead and read a bunch of new stuff and then pause and reread something. So that's how we started the podcast. I don't know if you had a second question.
I mean, so I do. I mean, well, like how things come to be is really interesting. Like Rachel and I famously have told, we tried to launch this podcast. We recorded an episode and then shelved it for like a year or so. Mm-hmm. And then Rachel, at one point, like we both started texting each other again. We just started hanging out again. We'd not seen each other in a while. And we're like, hey, do you want to try that thing again? And then it just snowballed from there. But like, I'm curious, like because I feel like Rachel and I, for this show, even though we talk about TV and movie, I don't feel like it's horning in on our hobby as much as like, say, Fun and Games might, like while playing video games or side quests or something. And so I'm curious, as someone who loves to read and reads as voraciously as you do, a concept that is alien to me, because it takes me like a month to finish a book. Like I just am such a slow reader.
I've been sitting in the same chapter of Outlander for weeks now. I just kind of like fell off. Oh boy.
So the first thing that I want to say, the key, or at least a key to reading joyfully and voraciously, is DNFing. Knowing when you are not going to finish the book. And it's fine. It's okay. You can just stop. You can just not read a book that you're not enjoying. And if you give yourself the permission to not read a book you are not enjoying, the amount of books that you'll actually finish is going to go up.
Wow.
That is the very
advice.
first most important thing that I would say is let yourself not finish things and not feel bad about it.
Now, how do I finish a book that I'm really enjoying? Because said Outlander, I'm loving it, but like I got distracted. How do I get back into a book? I guess.
I would say have a time when reading is what you're doing.
Okay.
And have a second book to get into if you're not doing, if you like, read 10 minutes of Outlander and you're like, not tonight. And then you try your backup book And if that's also not tonight, I guess you're just done reading that night. That's fine
I want to have
too.
a backup book. Holy, I've just been
Yeah.
lugging around the same little novel with me, and I'm just
No.
like,
No. You want to know how many books I am in the middle of?
Tell me.
7.
Freaked. Jeez.
I am in the middle of 7 books. Currently, I have read 2 stories in an anthology that has 4 stories. And I've read it before a very long time ago. I do not remember the second 2 stories. I read the anthology because of the very first story, because it's in another series that I was reading. And then I'm paused a couple of chapters in on a book that I have read before that is not my favorite in this series. And I'm reading it for the first time since having the podcast to review it. Mm-hmm. I'm 24% into a book that I got for Christmas. That I thought I was going to like a lot more, and that one might end up being a DNF. I feel slightly worse about that because I physically own it, but also I physically own both books, so I can hand somebody both books, and maybe they will like them instead. And then I'm 13% into a book that we're reading for an upcoming recording. I'm a little bit over halfway through the unabridged Count of Monte Cristo. I have no guilt of taking up to 2 years to finish that because that's how long it took to originally get serially published. I can take forever to read that. It's fine.
Read it in a serialized fashion.
Yeah.
That's how it was intended.
Yeah, I love that
all of
one.
the Lord of the Rings in one go. It was supposed to be one book.
Yep. Yeah. And then
weird.
I'm almost done with the book that we might record tomorrow. I already finished a different book we're probably going to record tomorrow. It just depends on which one both of us have finished first, because Nicole's reading the one that I just finished that I had already read before, and I'm reading the one that she owns and has read a ton. So I don't know which one we're discussing tomorrow, but it's one of those two. And then
I'm sorry, you called yourself a voracious reader? I'm gonna call you a prolific reader. Like,
Yeah, seriously.
Socks. You are like
and then I am almost done with I always have an audiobook going. I am almost done with the audiobook, or as of this year I always have an audiobook. That's a new thing because I used to just have podcasts. But I'm almost done with the 4th book in a quartet, where I'm like, you should have been a trilogy. You should have cut out a bunch of the plot of book 3 and a bunch of plot of book 4, because everyone is spending a long time being upset that things aren't happening yet. And you know what? Me too. What if they happened yet? I'm a little bit frustrated. Book 4 probably isn't going to get a good rating. This one I'm not going to DNF because there's nothing wrong with it. It's just long. And the fact that it's an audiobook means that I literally just have to spend the time having it play in my ears, and then it will be done. If I felt like this on the first book of the series, I would have DNF'd this. So
Yeah.
But because it's the 4th book and I do want to know how things end, I'm pushing through. But this is like every once in a while I have something like that. But I accepted that I'm not going to finish 2 books. Like my current reads pile was up to 11 a couple days ago, but then I finished a thing and DNF'd 2. So
It's funny, like, we asked that question, but like I am the same way with, like, I have a game I'm playing on Switch, a game I'm playing on my Steam Deck, and a game I'm playing on the PS5.
Yep.
But I don't have multiple games on each. But I've also, like, I used to push myself to finish games I didn't like just because I was like, I want to get to the end.
Oh, yeah, no, I
And I
very
don't do
quickly
that
hit that
anymore.
on Twitch.
Drop
where I was
things like a rock.
I will not finish. Like, I'm even doing this for an audience, and it's like, I'm not going to finish that. We're not going to have fun. Like,
yeah.
Well, there's also a difference between, like, I pushed through the original Shantae game because the only thing that was frustrating me was the limitations of the Game Boy Color and how old the game was. But once I looked up a walkthrough and could kind of go step by step, I got through it in no problem. And so I was like, that's a reason to finish it, because I wanted to see where this series came from. However, if it was like a game I'm playing for the first time, I don't know anything about the franchise, I don't really want to look up the solution, I'm not having fun, that's a different story. If the limitations of the hardware is why I'm not having fun, I'm less concerned.
It's really interesting to think about our relationship to different forms of consumable media. Because, like, I never feel bad if I don't finish a TV show or I don't finish a game or, like, I stop a movie halfway. I'm like, I'm not finishing the remake of Pinocchio. It's not happening. Never. It's what a chaotic nightmare mess. But like feeling so bad about not finishing a book is such like a universal constant where like there's a sort of level of like feeling successful about it. I think that's just really fascinating.
So I'm going to tell you a number and its context.
Uh-huh.
And hopefully telling you this will make you feel better. One, about not getting to all the books. Just in case you were worried about that.
Yeah.
I
wish I were more of an intellectual and not
so to make you feel better about
anime.
Not getting to all of them and also like not finishing any of the ones you're not into. Okay. So earlier this year, there were the nominations and then, the awards for the queer indie book awards.
Okay.
So this is a niche of a niche. Indie is already smaller than Trad Pub, and it's queer specifically. All right. There were over 200 nominees for the queer indie book awards across all of the categories.
That's a lot.
That is slightly more than half as many books as I'm planning to read this year.
Damn.
And I could have, and so like genuinely a question that I had when I saw that list was, so is this my reading list for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
I decided no, because first of all, the vote was next week. So like I wasn't going to get them in time for the Indie Awards anyway. But like, seeing that helps me feel better about, I don't read YA contemporary. If it doesn't have magic in it, nope. Magic or sci-fi, it needs that.
Yeah, agreed.
Like every once in a while, I'll read a contemporary thing with fantastical elements or something that is fantasy but happens to be in the modern day. But I didn't relate to school when I was in school. As I've mentioned, if you're finishing 2 books during the school day, you're not in school in an emotional sense. You just not.
Yeah.
I don't relate. Like I didn't date. I just didn't do any of the stuff. And so teens saving the world from dragons makes way more sense to me than like worrying. Because I'm like, you can't be worried about dragons and your homework. And the books try to do both of them.
You can, and it's called Inuyasha.
Well,
Kagome is very concerned about getting all of the sacred jewel
Sorry,
shards.
I should say this.
And also she's studying for her entrance exams because she can travel between the present and the past.
Some books do that well, but the ones that I have tended to like don't make me worry about whether they do their homework.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And if they're worried about their homework and there's no dragons, what are we even doing here?
That's just life. I'd rather watch a reality TV show if I want to get life.
So like some people love those. My blog's probably not for you because I'm not reading many of them. I'm reading a lot of fantasy and some sci-fi, and like we dip into other genres occasionally. Like I love dystopian stuff, but it depends on what you're framing for your dystopia is. Mm-hmm. I've read more than one, or just DNF'd recently. Some books every once in a while they'll be like, you know what? We have this really cool allegory for how difficult it is to be this kind of person, and several that I have read recently, it was about how difficult it is to be a woman. First of all, I'm not. So there's that. But one of them, I was like, well, if all princesses were literally dragons stripped of their scales, turned into human form, and made to live in a castle with their king in a way that was going to strip all of their personality, yeah, that would suck. And there are people for whom life is like that. But you're so worried about whether I'm going to get your allegory that you're not telling a story I'm liking. So I'm a little bit just not a fan of that one.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
These the stories are the delivery system. Like you put the dressing on it, and that's hey, this is what this means. You're not just like, this Ritz cracker is misogyny.
Yeah, so a separate story, I promise this is not the one that I just described, that is called When Women Were Dragons. I tried it. It's not for me. It has women turning into dragons, but no one's talking about it. Basically, it's like, oh my goodness, gaslighting and like societally ignoring this huge problem that's going on. And I'm like, we're doing that for real problems that actually are around, that are not nearly as flashy as people literally turning into dragons and vanishing.
Yeah.
Also, are you going to tell me where all the dragons went? No? All right, never mind. It's not for me. It's not for me.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But I've read some cool books that I love, if you'd like to know about any of those briefly.
Yeah. Give book recommend. 'Cause
Say-
you're speaking,
yeah.
you're speaking my fantasy language. I'd rather read something that like you need the medium of a novel to like get the mechanics of the world. I went through a phase where I was like really into Brandon Sanderson. I really love like his world building and stuff. You know, I think that Warbreaker is like one of the best fantasy books. It's a book that I would reread. I have the copy, and I'm just like, I should reread that. You know, so like, hit me with those fantasy books. I don't even mind the tropey essay. I do it.
I don't know where it is now. I actually had a thing that was, if you like this Brandon Sanderson book, you should read this fantasy book.
Love that.
I will try and send that to you. I don't know where that is
Please
right now
do.
because I did not know that this was going to be the
no,
exact question.
Yeah, no, please, no.
But-
like
All good.
from where you are, like,
Yeah.
like, what's been like your top 3 reads in the past 3 months?
Only 3. Okay.
Yeah. It's Screen Snark. We do it in 3. Rule of 3.
Yeah. Okay.
I know you've got to plumb hundreds of books for just 3 months' time. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I even do that? And actually, how I do that is I go to my blog and I filter for highly recommended.
Amazing.
That's actually what we do here. Okay.
It's like how I look to see if I've already watched something on Screen Snark by going on the Discord and typing in the title and being like,
Yep. Pretty
No.
much.
I thought
I mean,
Blown Away, but it's not in the channel. I could have sworn I
Okay.
got Blown Away.
I thought you talked about it, but I don't remember.
Okay. So, I think we're going to talk about 2 books that aren't out yet, and a trilogy where all of my reviews are out, and I've reviewed the whole thing. I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay. So, the trilogy where I read the whole thing, the first book is A Shadow of the Fox. It's by Julie Kagawa. And
I'm not writing these down. You're writing these down.
so it is a fantasy series. It's YA. I read it as an audiobook. If you can't, that's fine. The voice acting is great. I actually listened to it on 2x, and it's great. I listened to
I love speed audiobooks. It's like,
Yep.
put it on 1.5, I'm great.
Yep. So I did that. But yeah, so Shadow of the Fox is a very, very well-structured trilogy, and it's character-driven. The main character is half human, half kitsune. And it... Okay, so... Because I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
I do not. There's a samurai and a ronin.
Marty and I love it.
Yeah, and it's great. They aren't the main characters, and the main character was raised by monks and isn't like super up on human relationship stuff and isn't trying to scrutinize their relationship, but keeps like accidentally being around in different ways to catch really key and tender moments in the trajectory of the relationship between the samurai and the Ronin that goes from samurai and Ronin, why do you have no morals? Why are you stuck to this code kind of a thing? That trajectory from I respect you and I would die for and or with you in battle kind of a thing. And that arc happens over the course of the trilogy. The main story is a series of fetch quests that are, just that's, we got to go here and we got to do a thing. But like travel takes a bunch of time. So they spend the whole book traveling to the one place for the one thing. And, but the pacing is great. Yeah. I enjoy them individually and as a trilogy. I'm pretty sure I highly recommended all 3 of them, which doesn't usually happen for me for trilogies. Oh, no, okay. The first one was just recommended. The second 2 were highly recommended.
A little time to grow the beard, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
you need it.
You had a little bit of a start, and then they're great. I wanted to, but didn't cry when I finished the trilogy. They're fantastic. Amazing. And then 2 that I have read recently that are not out yet. One is out in October. One is out early 2023. Advanced review copies are fun. They're great.
Amazing.
The goal.
Yeah, it's great. But so first there's The Scratch Daughters by H.A. Clark, which is the sequel to The Scapegracers. It is by an author who I knew tangentially and was actually friends with my wife in high school.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and now he's a published author. And the first book, I don't know if they've reissued it under his new name or if they're still under his dead name. But the most recent book is out, The Scratch Daughters by H.A. Clark, and the first book is The Scapegracers. And if you've wondered what it's like when a book is really, really set in Ohio by someone who's from Ohio and it's super duper Ohio, it is. It's just
it's
even
great for the Ohio, and I know that doesn't sound like a recommendation.
Well, I mean, there's a bit in the second one where it mentions if I believed, I don't think hell is real because I don't believe everything billboards tell me. There's more than one massive black and white billboard that just says hell is real as you're driving through Ohio.
Wow.
I had to drive from Oxford to Columbus every other weekend for more than a decade. And so I saw that billboard a lot. But they put up more than one of them. So I don't even know if the author saw the exact same one I saw or a different one that the group or whatever put up. Anyway, it's extremely Ohio in a bunch of really, really cool ways.
Nice.
And very, very queer. The main character name is Sideways because they're not straight. And she has 2 dads. And it just gradually...
And they really loved that Paul Giamatti wine movie. They just loved it so much.
I don't know that reference, actually.
It's a movie called Sideways, and Paul Giamatti does wine tasting. I've actually never watched it. It's just kind of meme-ified in my head.
Mm-hmm. And then the third book that I enjoyed recently, and my review will get published in November because that's how far ahead I am on written reviews right now. Because I'm only publishing 3 reviews and maybe a DNF each week. So
just each week, no big deal. Just
no big deal.
Just only
this podcast comes out every 2 weeks, and I'm sometimes overwhelmed.
Yeah, but I don't have to edit audio, so I just have to write, several hundred words.
Yeah, that sounds impossible for me. Writing something? No, I speak garbage word and then put it outside online.
So the final book is Vampire Weekend by Mike Chen.
Like the
and
band?
About a Vampire Weekend.
Yeah, there's a band called Vampire Weekend.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's about a vampire who loves music and was turned because of running into a vampire at a concert.
Amazing.
So it's definitely a reference to that.
Ugh, I liked Twilight. Don't get mad at me.
I mean,
really I got into. I read it all
which is more than
I
I can
won't
say
get
for
mad
some
at people
books.
for that.
I can say I read all of the Twilight Saga. I did not finish Brandon Sanderson's Way of Kings.
Vampire Weekend is not at all like Twilight. That's the first thing that I'll say about it.
Oh, that's great
Yeah,
news.
so the main character is a vampire who has structured her entire life around being able to get the blood that she needs to stay alive. She works night shift at a hospital.
Love it.
And something goes weird with the blood supply, and also these two random people show up at her house because she's living in the house where her aunt, who is also estranged from the family, lived up until she died. And so these people show up as like the last known address of this person, because like they're in town because of a very sad medical thing happening to someone else, and they're like, hey, we think maybe there's family here. And she's like, yeah, that person died 10 years ago. I am also related to you. And then you end up finding out how exactly they are, because she just knows if they shoot up for this person, they have to be related to her somehow. But she still looks like she's in her 20s, so she can't tell them. Anyway, so it ends up being that her like teaching this kid about music when he's like grieving and playing with guitar apps on his phone and hasn't ever gotten to hold an actual guitar and like all of this stuff. And so if you know bands, it's probably an even better book for you than it was for me, because I didn't know pretty much any of the references or any of the music stuff. Amazing. And the story is full and engaging enough that me as a non-music person could enjoy it. But someone who knows all of these bands would enjoy it even more.
You, Matt?
That's awesome.
You know music? So, you love music?
Yes, I do.
It is life?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to read a vampire book.
Cool.
Nice.
With a main character who was trying to get a gig, but a garlic allergy is getting in the way. Yeah, the band you're auditioning for doesn't like it when you start having like blood tears in the middle of the audition because someone's making garlic bread nearby. It's not good.
Oh, see, I would be like, do that every time. I love quad. Let's go.
Well, this book is explicitly post-COVID.
Oh,
so,
yikes.
Right.
Oh, no, then that's terrifying. Put that away.
Right.
Hey, take your fluids, put them away. It's a pandemic.
Yes, exactly.
Polio's back. Put your fluids away.
Yep. No, this was this acknowledges the existence of that and like plays. Wow. It doesn't like try to claim whether or not it's over or anything. Yeah. But it explicitly has it that like that's a recent thing that these characters have been through, is dealing with that. Wow. So when like she is having garlic tears of blood on stage, they're like, we don't understand what's going on with you, but you cannot be in our band. So
it's a health risk.
It sounds really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, who knew?
So that
who
comes
knew
out in, like, January.
a TV and movie podcast would give you some book recommendations? Screen Snark, we do it all.
We do it all. Well, Robin, thank you so much for those recommendations.
This was so
Thank you for being
good.
on the show.
Inspiring.
Thank you for having me.
Before we wrap up and before we ask you our final question, why don't you tell folks where you can be found online if you wish to be found, and more importantly, of course, where you can find the podcast and all things related to it.
Well, of course, you can find me on Certain POV's website because I'm there. And also you can find all of our links on our card. That's booksthatburn.card.co, card with 2 R's. Or you can go straight to the podcast at booksthatburn.com. My review blog is Reviews That Burn. And so that's the links for the things.
Check
you can also find me on the Storygraph. That's where I post reviews instead of Goodreads. So I'm on the Storygraph as Books That Burn. I will accept most friend requests because I'm just delighted that anyone looked me up on the Storygraph.
Nice.
So
awesome. Yeah, go check out all that stuff. We'll put a link to the card in the show notes as well. Awesome stuff. Well, let's thank some people, Rachel, and then ask the final question and get out of here.
My kindest thank yous to John Presnell for the use of the song Aurora off the album Fair Game featuring Stefan Rimble. Nailing it. Words, they're great.
Words are great.
Thanks, John.
And I would like to thanks, John. I would also like to thank the incredible Katie Bug for the use of the incredible artwork that they designed for us. It is awesome,
Thanks,
and we
Katie.
love using it. Thank you for our podcast show art. And, of course, also I want to thank the incredible Case Aiken for
Never.
designing each episode art.
Never. Never thanking Case.
Never thanking Case.
Case is a blight on my life.
Case
You'll
is
settle-
I believe you misspelled delight.
Delight. Yeah, correct.
No. No. He's hypnotizing my cat,
Right, obviously.
ruining my life, giving great hugs. How dare. Yeah, and we would like to also thank the Certain Point of View Podcast Network for letting us be a part of this beautiful podcast fam. We got lots of shows. Books That Burn. No more question mark on it. Panelology?
Yes.
Yay, that's
Still on hiatus now, I
it's
think.
on a Saturday Morning Confidential.
Correct. That is the title of a podcast on our
We
network.
have those. They're very good, and the people who make them are much nicer than I am. So you should listen to them instead of me.
Yes, please. Also, if you want to find us, we are at @screen_snark on Twitter. Rachel is I am Rachel Quirky.
Yeah.
I am DJ_Stormageddon on Twitter and most social platforms. And of course, if you have a moment, please rate and review us on your podcast platform of choice, especially Apple Podcasts. Helps us grow the audience, helps us to get featured, all that good stuff. Helps our discovery and all the other internet jargon.
Yeah, will help us get
But
on
enough
more
jargon.
panels
Yeah, exactly.
at conventions.
Also, yeah, go to Fun and Games. One of the recent episodes Rachel was a guest on as we aired our live panel from FlameCon about queer representation in horror villains and in horror games. And I think that's it. So
Yeah.
now, Rachel, why don't you ask our guest our final
I'm so
question?
excited. I'm always so excited to ask this question. So, Robin, I am so interested to know what you're going to choose for this. But this is the question we ask everybody at the end of the episode. If you could choose one trope featured in movies or television to instantly and magically be true in your life, which trope would you choose?
Oh gosh. I have no idea. I truly have no idea. Oh my goodness. Because I try not, for my mental health, I try not to have a magical thinking. And so I don't know what thing I would want to have just happening for no reason other than that it's happening. Because this is like a really interesting, how would you like your life to be completely different right when I have it set up?
Yeah.
I can say the one that I am very grateful that did actually happen in my life.
Give me that one.
I can do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people choose enemies to lovers here. So, like...
Oh, I mean,
Living
I married
it
my
up.
best friend.
Yeah.
Like, I already did that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, I already did that one. But the one that I'm truly grateful that happened in my life is I got a series of random older guy mentors.
Nice.
Yeah, like, I had, like...
I want that one to come true for me. I want a bunch
Yeah,
of mentors.
I had like a series of them. I had the neighbor I worked for from when I was 12 to when I was 18, and then he like paid for me to go to college.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Like I had that one. I had the ornithology professor who taught me about insects and let me like hang out with his early morning bird banding. Yeah, like I had like kind of this string of just like middle-aged guy, or in one case, elderly guy that like were doing a thing for a reason, and I'm learning a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, like I'm incredibly grateful to that neighbor because he's the reason that I do not have student debt. Like,
That's
which
incredible.
is just life changing. Like it was the time in my life where I felt most like a protagonist of a book was when I gradually realized, wait, this series of things that started like a while ago means that I have this like really, really important difference in my life that dramatically has shaped its trajectory afterward.
Wow.
So that is the thing that I'm most grateful for that like actually happened. But like slightly more cheekily, I did Friends to Lovers, and it's great.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. If you could do Friends to Lovers and you're inclined that
it's
way,
really cool.
go for it.
It's amazing.
Really fun. Well,
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
That's
what
awesome.
a great way to look
Thank
at the
you.
question. We should get out of here, Matt.
We should. Thank you so much to my brilliantly stunning and awesome co-host, one Rachel Corky Shank.
And thank you to my formative feudal fantasy co-host, Matt, aka Stormageddon.
And thank you, of course, to our incredible listeners. You're amazing. We will see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere. Bye-bye.
Aurora, 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 Aurora. Metal to magnet, she will be mine. Aurora.
Did you know Rob Thomas has been writing since the mid-90s?
The Matchbox 20 guy?
No, the guy behind Veronica Mars.
Oh, and iZombie.
And Cupid, Party Down, the Cupid reboot.
I haven't seen those.
Me neither, but we should watch them and then talk about them on our podcast.
Yes. We could call it the Rob Thomas
No, not that one.
Robcast.
Every other Tuesday with Alex and MJ.
Find us at notthatrobcast.libsyn.com or wherever you download podcasts.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.